The somatic reset begins when you press the point where body memory becomes a conscious choice. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn a specific physical gesture that interrupts the automated locking command and rewrites decades of unconscious obedience etched into your nervous system. There's a precise place at the center of your body where all defensive programming can be cancelled, and you'll discover exactly how to access it. This transforms the way you respond to life, because what paralyzes you in the face of opportunities? What freezes your voice when you need to take a stand? What makes you pull back at the moment of expansion? All of that stops being fate and becomes choice. If you leave this video now, you'll keep obeying inherited codes that were never yours, repeating cycles of sabotage that rational thought can't explain. But before you touch this reset point, you need to understand what's actually recorded there. The body registers patterns, and it runs those patterns like an operating system that, for safety, refuses to update on its own. When you freeze before speaking, when you sabotage projects at the moment of delivery, when creative impulse dies before it turns into action, it's not weakness. It's implicit memory being executed by the autonomic nervous system, milliseconds before conscious thought can intervene. Trauma doesn't live in the mind. It lives inscribed as a survival protocol in the tissues of the body. Many of these commands aren't even yours. Epigenetics shows that defensive strategies cross generations, transmitted biologically even before birth. You may be obeying the fear that saved a great-grandparent, but that now imprisons you in cycles of retreat and paralysis. What you call a block is, in truth, ancestral loyalty, an automatic obedience to codes that protected someone in the past but today keep you from fully existing. And there is a physical point in the body where this command can be interrupted. In the Hermetic traditions of ancient Egypt, the human body was seen as a living temple, a sacred architecture where each point corresponded to a portal of vibrational command. The sternum, the central bone of the chest, was recognized as the door of the temple, the place where life force could be sealed by fear or released by conscious intention. Touching this point with presence wasn't a decorative gesture, it was spiritual technology, a way to interrupt defensive patterns and rewrite the destiny inscribed in the body. Modern neuroscience locates in this same region what it calls the autonomic convergence zone, the point where the ventral vagus nerve crosses with the cardiac plexus, regulating the sense of safety or threat, what the ancients called a portal of vibrational transition. Polyvagal theory identifies as a direct access route to the nervous system, where a physical gesture can signal to the body that it's safe to deactivate chronic vigilance. The sternum isn't just bone. It's the access password to the code itself, and you're about to learn how to use it. Before interrupting the command, you need to recognize the exact instant it's triggered. This moment has a physical signature. It isn't vague, it isn't abstract. It's a set of trackable bodily sensations that appear milliseconds before paralysis takes over. When you're about to do something that expands your reality, the body fires warning signals, freezing in the solar plexus, sudden tension in the shoulders, the diaphragm locking so you can't take a deep breath, a voice that falters or catches before it comes out. These signals aren't a coincidence. They're the autonomic nervous system entering what polyvagal theory calls the dorsal vagal state, the shutdown mode. It isn't fight, it isn't flight, it's silent collapse. The body senses that the situation demands more vital energy than it believes it has available, so it simply powers down. Dissociation isn't a psychological flaw, it's a survival strategy stuck in the on position, like an alarm that was never disarmed. The root of this shutdown lies in past events, yours or inherited, where exposure, vulnerability, or expansion were read as mortal threat. It could have been a public humiliation in childhood, a punishment for trying to create something new, a violent rejection when you showed who you really were. The body recorded, "There is danger here. Protect yourself by shutting down." And since then, whenever something similar appears, even decades later, even in completely safe contexts, the protocol is activated automatically. It's not laziness. It's not lack of discipline or a weak will. It's somatic obedience to a code that was recorded as a law of survival. The body is doing exactly what it learned to do: protect you from something it still believes is present. And until you interrupt this command at the level where it operates in the body, not in the mind, it will keep running, no matter how many positive affirmations you repeat or how many cognitive therapies you do. Now that you recognize the physical signature of the lock, it's time to learn how to cancel it. There is a specific gesture that works like a deactivation password, a physical touch that signals to the nervous system that the old protocol can be interrupted. And this gesture happens at the point where the body stores both the memory of the wound and the potential for healing. The sternum, door of the living temple you inhabit. The moment you recognize the pattern is also the moment you refuse its continuity. When you feel the freezing begin, when the tension rises into your shoulders, when the diaphragm locks, that's the portal of intervention. Don't try to push the sensations down. Don't force positive thoughts over paralysis. Instead, go straight to the physical place where the command is being executed and touch that place with intention. Cross your arms over the center of your chest, positioning your hands so they rest over the sternum, the flat bone that protects the heart. This crossing isn't decorative. It's intentional pressure on the point of convergence between the ventral vagus nerve, the cardiac plexus, and what energetic traditions call the vibrational pericardium, the invisible membrane that surrounds the heart field and regulates the capacity to be present or dissociated. When you touch this point with intention and presence, three things happen simultaneously. First, the physical pressure on the sternum activates mechanoreceptors that send direct signals to the ventral vagus nerve, the neural pathway responsible for restoring the state of social safety, the one in which you can relax, connect, and create without chronic vigilance. Second, the gesture interrupts the automatic response flow. The body perceives that something different is happening and pauses the old protocol to investigate. Third, you create a somatic anchor, a physical gesture you can repeat whenever the pattern tries to return. Cross your arms over your heart, placing your palms or fingers directly on the sternum. It doesn't need to be strong pressure, just enough to feel the bone under the skin, the warmth of the touch, the presence of your own hands over the center of the chest. Close your eyes or keep a soft gaze without fixed focus. This helps shift attention from the external to the internal, where transformation happens. Now breathe. Not a shallow breath, but one that expands the diaphragm and moves the chest. Inhale deeply through the nose, feeling the air descend into the abdomen. And exhale slowly through the mouth, allowing the shoulders to relax and the chest to open. This full breathing activates the ventral vagus nerve, gradually deactivating the dorsal shutdown state. With each breath, the body receives the message: there is no threat. It's safe to relax. It's safe to be present, while maintaining the crossing and the breathing. Declare internally or in a low voice a new intention. Not a vague wish, but a clear and specific instruction. My body now chooses freedom of action, or I allow the new to happen safely, or my voice has the right to exist without fear. The declaration works like a line of code being written into the somatic operating system. It isn't autosuggestion, it's neuroplastic command. The brain's capacity to form new connections when clear intention is combined with elevated emotional state. Hold the gesture for 30 to 60 seconds. Don't rush. This time allows the body to process the change, for the new information to be integrated into the nervous system. During these seconds, you may feel warmth or vibration in the center of the chest, a softening in the jaw, a breath that finally descends into the abdomen. These are signs that the ventral vagus nerve has been activated and that the body is coming out of shutdown mode. If tears come, let them. If deep sighs appear, allow them. What you just performed isn't a symbolic ritual, it's neurological intervention. By crossing your arms over the sternum, breathing with intention, and declaring a new command, you activated 3 levels simultaneously: somatic, autonomic, and cognitive. This triad creates what neuroscience calls self-directed neuroplasticity, the capacity to reconfigure brain circuits through focused attention, intentional repetition, and emotional charge. You're not pretending the old pattern doesn't exist. You're teaching the body that another response is possible. In alchemical and hermetic traditions, this kind of gesture was described as a magical act, a moment where matter, energy, and consciousness operate in unity to transform reality. The magic wasn't in belief, but in precision, touching the right point, at the right moment, with the right intention. What modern science confirms is that intentional physical gestures can alter emotional and behavioral patterns because the body doesn't separate the physical from the emotional. Everything is information being processed by the nervous system, and when you change the information at the somatic level, the mind follows. After the gesture, release your arms slowly. Don't rush this movement. Let your hands rest at your sides and remain for a few seconds, feeling what remains. Perhaps you notice that your breath now naturally descends into the abdomen. Perhaps your shoulders are looser, your jaw less clenched, your chest less armored. These subtle changes are signs that the code has been updated. The body is no longer blindly obeying the old protocol. It's listening to you, your presence, your intention, your choice. This practice isn't to be done once and forgotten. It's an access password you can use whenever the old pattern tries to reactivate. When you feel the freezing coming on, when the tension rises, when the creative impulse starts to die before turning into action, return to the gesture. Cross your arms over your heart, breathe deeply, declare the new intention. In 30 to 60 seconds, the body receives the update. And gradually, with conscious repetition, the new command becomes the pattern, not by willpower, but by somatic choice, recorded in living tissue. And there are people who have already made this crossing, who lived for years obeying the old code, and who, upon learning this gesture, felt for the first time the body stop repeating and start creating. Randall was 48 and worked as a nursing assistant in a public hospital. Night shifts, crowded hallways, body on autopilot for so long he couldn't even remember the last time he felt anything besides tired. The problem wasn't the job, it was what happened when he tried to leave it. Every time he thought about quitting, moving to another city, calling the son he hadn't spoken to in 3 years, his chest locked like concrete. He would wake up in the middle of the night with the sensation of being crushed from the inside. It wasn't pain, it was absence, as if the body had stopped reacting to anything. A co-worker once commented about a vagal lock, something he'd heard on a podcast. Randall didn't understand a thing, but the word stuck. Vagal lock. He searched on his phone during a break and found something about crossing the arms over the chest to reset the nervous system. He did the gesture for the first time sitting in the locker room, still in uniform, before going home. He crossed his arms, took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, the breath descended. It didn't get stuck in his throat. It descended into his stomach, pushing out something he didn't even know had been trapped. 2 weeks later, he called his son. His voice faltered at first, but it didn't lock. He continued. 6 months later, he had requested a transfer to another unit. Not because the old one was bad, but because his body had finally stopped obeying the command, "Don't move. It's safer here." What changed wasn't Randall's life. It was the way his body responded to his own life. His shoulders stopped rising automatically when someone spoke to him. His jaw stopped waking up clenched. And when he needed to make a decision, the freezing no longer came before the thought. It came after, and by then he had already chosen. This change that happened with Randall doesn't just stay in the story. It needs to be sealed in your own body, now, so the old pattern doesn't retake control at the first pressure. The physical marker that confirms integration is the breath that finally reaches the abdomen effortlessly, shoulders that rest naturally away from the ears, and persistent warmth in the center of the chest, as if something had been reconnected inside. When you feel these signs, you'll know the nervous system has accepted the new instruction. The signal gesture that brings you back to center whenever the lock tries to return is this. Touch the sternum with the palm of your right hand, press lightly, breathe 3 times through your nose, and whisper just to yourself, "I am here, 30 seconds. You don't need more." This touch reactivates the somatic memory of presence and cancels the body's attempt to return to automatic shutdown. The point of return exists for the moments when the old pattern insists. When the freezing starts, stop. Touch your chest, inhale to a count of 4, exhale to a count of 6, and ask internally, is this danger real right now? The question interrupts the cycle and returns you to the present, where choice can operate. And when you do this consistently, the body finally understands it no longer needs to execute orders from a past that no longer exists. It understands it can choose, it can create, it can exist without always being in protection mode. And that is exactly what we need to talk about now. What you called a block your entire life was never weakness. It was the body carrying out protection orders that someone, at some point, recorded as a survival law. Every time you locked up, retreated, quit at the last second, it wasn't self-sabotage. It was somatic loyalty to a code that once saved someone, but that now imprisons you. The body wasn't against you. It was protecting you from a danger it still believed existed. And the difference between living by repeating and living by creating lies in teaching the body that the present is not the past. Now you have the password. The somatic reset point isn't theory, it's real-time physical intervention. When you cross your arms over the sternum, breathe deeply, and declare a new intention, you're not just calming the nervous system, you're rewriting decades of defensive programming in seconds. The body finally understands it can release chronic vigilance. It can stop executing inherited commands. It can choose presence instead of collapse. This isn't self-help. It's vibrational sovereignty, the moment you stop obeying the past and start commanding the present. Spinoza said something few truly understood. No one knows what a body can do. He wasn't speaking of physical strength or endurance. He was speaking of untapped potential, of capacities blocked by fear, of life imprisoned inside commands that were never questioned. The human body is a portal of infinite creation. But when that portal is sealed by trauma, by ancestral loyalty, by defensive orders that became pattern, you live a fraction of what you truly are. And the gesture you learn today is the key that opens that seal. God didn't give you a body for it to be a prison. He gave you a living temple, a sacred territory where every gesture can be a prayer. Every breath can be reconnection. Every conscious choice can be alignment with the greater purpose that brought you here. When you touch the center of your chest and declare a new intention, you're not just changing an emotional pattern, you're restoring the original relationship between spirit and matter, the one in which the body stops resisting and starts serving. And in that moment, what was fate becomes choice. What was repetition becomes creation. You no longer need to live obeying codes you didn't choose. The body has just learned it can stop protecting you from threats that no longer exist and start building with you what does not yet exist. And when that happens, when the lock stops being automatic and becomes optional, your entire life changes, not because you defeated something, but because you finally stopped fighting yourself. The somatic reset isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of the first time you walk without carrying the weight of everyone who came before you. If this video resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any revelation yet to come. If you want to directly support Transcend's mission and help bring this wisdom to more people who need to rewrite their body codes, consider becoming a member of the channel. Your contribution keeps alive this current of knowledge that crosses generations. I want to know, were you able to feel the somatic reset happening in your body? Write in the comments, I rewrite the code that programmed me to lock up, and my body finally chooses to create. This affirmation seals your choice in the present and cancels obedience to the past. Share this video with someone you know who keeps repeating patterns they didn't choose. And don't stop here. Click on the screen and dive into another transformative portal on the channel. Because every conscious gesture you learn brings you closer to the sovereignty that has always been yours by right. Remember, when the body stops being a prison of inherited commands and becomes a territory of conscious choice, you finally stop living the life of everyone who came before you and start living your own.